All right, welcome back, everybody. Here with the Soda Nerds, Ben and Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
And we are going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home today. So we need to let people know right off the bat that if you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, then you should click out of this video.
Oh, we are going to spoil a lot today.
And you shouldn't watch this because we're literally going to talk about everything that happened in this movie. And it's going to ruin it for you if you haven't seen it. So here's your chance right now. Click off if you haven't seen the movie yet. If for some reason, some miracle you haven't already seen spoilers, then don't watch this. Keep it secret until you go see it. So, all right. So first initial thoughts of Spider-Man No Way Home.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
It was everything that they built it up for, everything that they put it across and said, I mean, I don't even think that like the movie producers tried to blow it up that big. I think the fans did well enough of a job just going, wait, the possibilities here. And we just went gaga with it. So
I literally, like, if I could describe it in one sentence, it would be Spider-Man No Way Home is 100% a love letter to Spider-Man fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I even said that to my wife where I'm like, if you went into this movie and you hadn't been a huge fan of Spider-Man before, or for some reason you hadn't even seen other Spider-Man movies, like, this isn't going to hit you as hard as it did. Like, it was made for Spider-Man fans.
Yes. Actually, that's where it kind of, I was very disappointed that, like, Stan Lee wouldn't have been a part of this. Because, I mean, just look at him create this creation that he made and then seeing that culmination. That would have been the perfect, like, end game scenario for the Spider series like that. So
I saw a lot of people say that, where it was like,
it had that
I
feel.
wish Stan could have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man was his man.
Oh, yeah.
As he's my man, as he's your man. Like, Spider-Man is the man. And there's so much to unpack with this movie. Let's take a shot.
Sounds good.
Let's do that quick. Ben's feeling restricted with our different setup we have going on today.
I mean, the thing is like right there. I never sit this close to my mic, so it's just kind of like, all right, well, I gotta matrix around the thing here. Speaking of which, that movie's coming out soon. We gotta get cracking on that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Delicioso.
Okay.
Okay, right off the bat, every Spider-Man is in this movie. You have Tobey Maguire, you have Andrew Garfield, you have Tom Holland. It's the one thing everybody has been asking, is this going to happen leading up to this movie? And it did. It happened, but in a way that I don't think any of us even, like, we already thought this movie is going to be sweet if you have 3 generations of actual Spider-Mans in it.
Right.
Spider-Men in it. But the way that the MCU did it, it's like we didn't even see it coming. Like, how good it actually was.
Okay, so that is actually one of the parts where I was a little, like, bummed by. One of my negatives. Hang on.
You're bummed by 3 Spider-Men?
Hang on. I love that all 3, but how they got brought in, how they shown it in the movie.
Oh, okay.
That's the part, because I was so hoping, like, all of a sudden, Tom Holland's getting his ass kicked, and somebody's got to help him. Who's going to save Spider-Man? Other than Spider-Man, so I would have preferred, this fight sequence of another Spider-Man swinging in,
where they just come flying in. Yeah,
maybe one at a time, or maybe both at a time.
Yeah,
but I just kind of went. I think I built my mind around that scenario so much. Yeah, that the way they had brought him into the movie, into what Ned's grandmother's kitchen there. I just kind of go. I mean, the comedy factor. Absolutely beautiful, and that's where it stays true to Spider-Man in the kind of nerdy goofiness of it all. Yep. And to bring in both of those characters, it was fitting for that, because it got to show them in their true, like, Peter Parker
character. Yeah.
you know, but I was just really hoping for that battle scene to save. So it was built up in my mind. So therefore, when I didn't get that, I was a little disappointed. But that doesn't make it bad. That was just one of my little negative ticks. That was only one. So
I think that's funny because you're probably not the only one that was anticipating more of like a badass entry. However, and in this video, we're kind of just going to jump around with train of thought. I mean, it's all about what we thought about the movie, so it's probably going to be sporadic. But along with that, you not liking the way that they were introduced, what came after they were introduced almost made it seem necessary the way that they came into the movie, because they showed up not in a badass fight scene, but more of like when the MCU's Peter Parker was at the lowest possible point in the movie. Right. That's when they show, and not like physical battle, lowest point, like he had Aunt May just died. You know what I mean? Like I know. Everybody knows if you're watching this, you better know that Aunt May died.
Well, okay. So basically that's where the storyline overall, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Because how they did it, how they wrote it was seamless. It was very perfect. I love that.
Yes.
But I just like that entry, you know. I mean, they did it right. It wasn't, you know, my fight scene, but that was in my head. So yeah.
Yeah, they did. I think they did it the way it needed to be done. Yeah. Like when they came in, and even when Toby's just like, I have this sense that like your friend needs my help.
Right.
And Andrew's like, our help. And then they're like, well, he does. And so they find him, and it's like, it was almost this, he had just lost Aunt May, and they've been through that. You know what I mean? With Uncle Ben. So the only people that could actually understand what he was going through to lift him back up to the mindset of, I need to kick some ass, would be those two. Yeah. So in my mind, they came in the perfect possible timing,
but to kick ass in the proper way.
Yes.
You know, and that's where, you know, I think it was done so beautifully that, you know, this movie interlaid and like fixed all three Spider-Men.
Yeah.
You know, and they're each individual ways. It brought that whole culmination of, okay, I'm whole again kind of thing, you know? So, you know, with
no kidding. I totally hear what you're saying.
With Aunt May dying, that needed to happen, just like they said. Because they needed that critical part in there.
Yes.
You know, the famous saying.
So, yeah, the famous saying. And that's why, like, I'll say, with Aunt May dying, all right, this is going to be my spiel here. This is kind of my takeaway of what overall this movie means to me. All right. And I've said with you guys before on this show that I did not like Homecoming, and I kind of liked Far From Home. Not in the sense of like it was a bad movie. What I've explained to you guys that I didn't like about it was they made the MCU's Peter Parker seem like this just dumb kid that like didn't know what he was doing. Whereas if you see the first movie with Toby and the first movie with Andrew, it's like there's some hard stuff that happens early on that thrusts them into being Spider-Man the way Spider-Man should be. You know what I mean? And I didn't see that in Homecoming. I just saw this dumb kid that was dependent on Tony Stark for everything, like suits, abilities, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Far From Home, it was kind of the same thing. He had just lost Tony. You could see him coming into his own a little bit. And we had talked about this months ago where I brought it up with you guys, where I said, it almost seems like what the MCU does is they're building the character, building. I understood why they're making him seem like this dumb little kid. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But what No Way Home showed me was that in the first movie with Toby, you see his origin story within the first 30 minutes.
Yep.
Same with Andrew. First 30 minutes, you see his origin story. Bit by a spider, experiences great loss, is thrusted into what it means to be the superhero. No Way Home made me appreciate Far From Home and Homecoming way more than I did before, because it showed me, I'm like getting chills talking about it. It showed me that all three movies was his origin story.
Yep.
And now we have finally seen the origin of the MCU Spider-Man, because for all we know, there was no Uncle Ben for the MCU Spider-Man. So we never witnessed him having that with great power comes great responsibility conversation until Aunt May died.
Yep.
And for me, that was like, holy crap.
That is the epitome.
All of these Spider-Man movies we've seen in the MC have led to this moment right here.
Yep.
The birth of Spider-Man just happened for the MCU.
Bingo. And that's just it. That is the epitome of where Spider-Man comes out.
Yeah.
That is where he is no longer a child, no longer a geeky kid trying to figure out who he is. No, that is where he becomes the hero.
Yes.
And every good Spider-Man, origin story has that. And that's where we had been missing that.
Yeah.
Except it was built. It was being built up. And I love how this multiverse scenario really just blows that out of the water of going, hey, yeah, in their universe, this happened. In their universe, this happened. And in our now MCU universe, this is the way it had to take place for it to really build up and work.
Yeah.
And I love the way they did it. I think it was genius on how they literally built up every single piece that, when you look back at the other two movies, it all really fits perfectly.
You look at those previous two MCU Spider-Man movies in a different light after watching this movie, because like you said, you hit that moment where you're like, all of that was leading to this.
Oh yeah.
We had to endure that he had to endure that to finally become Spider-Man. And people would say, they'll be like, well, in those other two movies, I mean, the argument could be thrown out like, well, why was he a superhero then? Because with Tobey and with Andrew, they didn't really become Spider-Man until Uncle Ben died, right? Well, then why would Tom Holland want to be a superhero? Well, in his universe, in his reality, like, he's surrounded by Iron Man and Thor and Captain America and
all these mega heroes.
It would be easy for you to be like, oh, I have these powers, I want to be a part of these guys. But it wasn't until we watched Aunt May die that he really became Spider-Man. I don't think he's been Spider-Man up until that point.
No, I mean, it comes down to, you can see, okay, I can help. I have the ability to do this.
Yeah.
But until those things, I mean, Spider-Man is utterly known for his trials and tribulations. He is so his entire life is a tragedy story.
Yes.
And the fact that he never gives up, he always gets back up to keep fighting, keep pushing forward. That is where Spider-Man is the epitome of my favorite character.
Yes.
Because I mean, that's all of us. We all have these moments in our lives where we just get tackled down, just nailed down, and just beaten down to where it's just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But yet when you look at the way he goes, this is what I have to do. This is who I am. I have this power. I have to help as much as I don't want to, as much as I want to go to sleep, as much as I want to go on a date, as much as I want to have a normal life. It can't happen. He has taken this on. This is who he is. And and we've seen in so many other stories and, throughout the comic series and everything, as much as he fights it and doesn't want to have this life, this is who he is, and it comes down to every time he turns his back, somebody else gets hurt. And that's where he knows he can't. He has to give it his all just for the sake of, oh my goodness, if I step away, someone else that I love is going to get hurt.
And I think we saw that too, the maturity that Tom Holland's character went through in this movie, it makes me love the MCU Spider-Man even more. I was skeptical. We talked about this at first because you're following Tobey and Andrew, so it's hard to compete. You know what I mean? Yep. But the sequence of this movie and the fact that he finally came into Spider-Man watching Aunt May die, you saw that maturity towards the end of the movie when everybody forgets who he is.
Yep.
And he's going to be the normal previous two movie Spider-Mans and go find MJ and say, hey, this is who I am, right? But the maturity that we saw in this movie, when she brushes that hair back and he sees the Band-Aid on her head, he stops himself from telling her. And you saw that maturity, you're in danger if you're a part of my life.
Bingo.
And I need to protect you. So by doing that, I'm not going to re-reveal who I am to you. And as much as I love you, I want to keep you safe.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that's the epitome of Spider-Man. He is
right there.
Always wanting to have that normal life, but he understands that, hey, I'm going to put your life at risk. I can't do this because I love you. You must never know who I am.
Yeah.
And just the level of hero in that in itself. I mean, I'm blown away. So Tobey Maguire has always been my favorite.
Yeah, I would say mine too.
Not only because I grew up with him, but it's just like he also showed so much of that heartbreak, of wanting that normal life and wanting to be. I mean, you see him trying to struggle to keep a job. Keep several jobs.
Yeah.
To pay his rent, and you see all of those trials that are just piling on top of him. And yet he's this amazing, awesome hero.
Yeah.
And so that's where I always loved Tobey Maguire. But now that they have, brought full circle with Tom Holland's that, okay, I've heard so many people complain, how can this Spider-Man be Spider-Man? He's got all this super tech, he's got Iron Man's technology and all this jazz. And now he's, not Spider-Man, he's, Iron Spidey, and I get that. But now the fact that he's lost all of that. Nobody knows who he is. He's literally 110% on his own.
Yes.
And he has to go through all that now. That's where I think where it's like in this MCU universe, they have stopped. They have brought him from, Tobey Maguire's universe. You're picking up where that left off on these trials and tribulations that he's on his own and he's got to, struggle with both and be that hero.
That's what I told my wife when we walked out of that movie. I said, well, first of all, the first thing I said was, my heart is so full right now.
I know, right?
It's so full. But mainly because, like I've explained, I was so annoyed with how he was basically Tony Stark's pet.
Yeah.
In the other movie, it was like Tony Stark created Spider-Man. Well, that's not true. Mm-hmm. So I said to her, I was like, I feel like Spider-Man is finally Spider-Man.
Right.
In the MCU. Because like you said, he's getting his suits from Tony. He's getting that. Well, now not a single person in the universe knows who he is. And he walks into this tiny apartment. He sets the sewing machine down. Mm-hmm. You see him, he's got his new suit stitched together.
Sparkly.
Yeah, and it's like...
Which I'm sorry, I thought was a little...
But still, just the idea behind it where it was like, he's alone. Yep. He's doing it on his own. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man has arrived. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's what it felt like. That's
exactly how I felt at the end there. I mean, that is it. Spider-Man has finally arrived. And that's where, I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this. Because... as far as Tom Holland's, he's said back and forth, he's ready to be done. He's been acting for 6 years. He wants some time off and maybe start a family or whatnot, which he deserves. But they've also said that they're already in works for Spider-Man number 4.
Yeah.
Now, where are they going to go with that?
Well, now you have a multiverse.
Exactly. And what do we see in our little end credits?
Yeah.
So in the end credits, we see, we have Tom Hardy, who's Venom, and he's still, he's getting drunk in Mexico trying to figure out what in the hell just happened.
What universe am I in right now?
Exactly. And obviously Venom knows some more than he does. And, but at the end there, he gets, there's a little piece of Venom that gets left behind as, now the ending of, Doctor Strange fixes that universe and sends everybody back to their others. And now we got Venom.
Yeah.
A little piece of Venom trapped there. So now we're going to have Venom in this universe. Mm-hmm. What's he going to be like, or who's he going to attach to? That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Some of these other characters. I mean, I want to ask this opinion of you because we've been gushing for a minute here.
Yes. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So this, we all know the Sinister Six. Okay, was supposed to be that big, and we were looking for that sixth villain. Who do you think would have been the sixth villain? Because I feel there was a sixth villain in there, but underlaying.
You feel like there was a sixth villain in the movie?
Yeah.
Well, I think
I have two choices.
There was something going on with Doctor Strange in that movie. Okay. Doctor Strange was not normal in this No Way Home movie. So I don't know if Doctor Strange is like trapped somewhere and somebody is like impersonating him. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? All I know is like he seemed very odd
He did seem a little bit
for
off.
Doctor Strange.
I would say he would definitely be one of the two candidates that I have because, I mean, that there is that fight sequence between him and Spider-Man, which I'm so glad that Spider-Man really kind of got him there.
Yes.
But
you know what's cooler than magic? Math.
That was great. You definitely, I think something's a little bit off, but I also, when they brought him back in there, you know, just on the other side of the portal, and then seeing that the end credit scene is the multiverse madness. What is that called?
Multiverse of Madness?
Well, is it Doctor Strange's new movie? Is that what it's called?
It's Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness.
Okay. I didn't know if there was something else on there, but yeah. So, you know, I kind of wonder if maybe he was coming back from that kind of thing afterwards.
Well, because you saw two Doctor Stranges even in that trailer. You know what I mean? Yep. Something's going on with Doctor Strange. But the number two, I would say, well, I feel like they showed it in the other end credit. Like, it's probably Venom. Like,
okay.
We saw the symbiote get left over. Like, we know Venom. That confirms that Venom is now in the MCU.
Yes, and it's about time. I mean, I can understand where they had to deal with that, you know, with logistically with Sony and all that jazz. Yep. But I think they did a really good job of, you know, bringing him in a slight form there. But I honestly, I'm going different on that and going the villain. I think if we were going to go Sinister Six, isn't a Sinister Six like common Venom or villain? It would be Jameson. Just look at how he manipulated. I mean, you could say he was the underlining sixth villain because he got the entire world against him.
That is true.
It was just going. So that to me was the sixth villain.
Yeah,
was J. Jonah. You know, so
that is true. That's a good point.
I don't know. That was my personal take on that because I'm just going, if we're looking at a sixth villain, that would be, I mean, granted, we had a fight scene with Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange still loves Spider-Man.
Yes.
And he's doing that for his own good. But
well, he even said that at the end. He's like those that know you. He said
we'll never know.
Yeah. He was like, and then he was like, we that love you.
Yeah.
Won't know who you are. You know what I mean?
So, and that was touching. I'm glad that, you know, he has this connection with this kid. But that's where I also go, you know, it's, God, I can't believe he did that, but I understand it. Peter, you break my heart.
Yeah.
Because I just feel for that kid.
I feel like it was necessary, though. What other superhero goes through as much trial as Spider-Man?
And literally gives up everything.
For really... like nothing.
Yeah, no benefit to him.
I mean, if you look at it materialistically, like for nothing. Like he's not in the spotlight of an Avenger. He's not Tony Stark wealth. He's not, like you said, you know, you got Spider-Man who is always struggling to get by, always late on rent. Nobody knows who he is, but yet he's like, my great power has great responsibility attached to it. Like it doesn't matter what I'm going through. I have to do this.
No.
You know what I mean? So, like you said, we gushed about Tom Holland and just the direction of this Spider-Man or what this meant to us. You know what I mean? But there's obviously two other main key components to this movie that it's Tobey and Andrew. Just seeing them again, but not only that, but seeing the way it was written, the way the scenes were played out, the way it all came together. It almost felt like they just signed, sealed, and delivered, wrapped up three different franchises in just this beautiful bouquet of like,
it was beautiful.
The love letter to Spider-Man fans. Just all the, like I said, if you're not a huge Spider-Man fan, like it's not going to hit you as hard, but all the little stuff in there.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so Tom Holland's, you know, in trying to, you know, and that's the beauty of Spider-Man. He's never trying to kill. But he is trying to help and trying to fix, you know, there is good in people. And that's where he's always trying to do that, you know, and that's credit to Spider-Man. So as Tom Holland is trying to do that, you know, he also then fixes, you know, Tobey Maguire's universe. Now Green Goblin isn't dead, which affects, you know, his best friend and that whole relationship, which he would lose that, and, you know, his best friend there. And then with Doc Ock is this beautiful, you know, awesome mind. Yeah. And now we don't have to lose him in that universe.
And I love how they centered, even with Doc Ock, if you take him for a second, I love how they centered it around the chip.
Yeah.
Like, because that was always the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not an evil person.
Right.
It was the rogue chip. And I love that they brought that into the MCU. And I just, even the one-liners, like,
Oh, yes.
like when he says to him, when Toby says to Doc Ock, he's like, just trying to be better, you know? Like, and even William Dafoe talking to Tom Holland, you know what? I'm somewhat of a scientist myself. Like,
exactly.
It's all these little things, like I said, where it's the love letter to Spider-Man. It's probably the biggest one is Andrew Garfield saving MJ when she's falling.
That was beautiful. That redemption piece. I was glad that they did that because he needed that, you know.
Yeah,
and they did it very well.
Just his face when he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah," and just the realization of him of like, "Oh, you're okay." You know what I mean? Like, you're okay. Yeah. Like that. If you're a hardcore Spider-Man fan, like that hits you. And in my opinion, I don't know how you feel. Like, sorry, my phone's going.
Oh, God, it's so hard to find good help.
I probably feel the same way. Where Toby has always been my favorite. That's who I grew up with. Right. But in this movie, it almost felt like Andrew was like the unsung hero.
Yeah.
It felt like he stole the show in just a beautiful way. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
his dialogue, the way he played Spider-Man in this movie, it was just like something you weren't expecting. But I feel like if you talk to most Spider-Man fans right now, they'd be like, I absolutely loved Andrew Garfield in that movie.
He held that the comedy aspect of Spider-Man. Yes. You know how he's so witty with stuff. Yeah. When he's in Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield saved that and played that perfectly. Yeah. You know, and I love just we've all seen the Spider-Man memes of them all pointing at each other and stuff like that. I mean, there was 2 of those scenes in there. The movie. Exactly. And I'm just going, this is perfect. It is, it's exactly what we wanted. But, you know, with Andrew, I think, you know, there's not as the attachment to Andrew because he only had the 2 movies or whatnot. Yeah. And they didn't, you know, there was after Gwen Stacy died, you know, people had a hard time reconnecting with that Spider-Man, you know, so I think it was phenomenal that they gave him that closure on that by saving MJ. Yeah. And I love how MJ isn't Mary Jane Watson. Yeah. I forget her name though. Right?
Michelle Jones Watson.
Michelle Jones. There we go. Yeah. So that's where I was just going, wait a second. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So a different universe, different, you know, the little things that are off, you know.
Well, and there's all those little things in there that if you didn't grow up watching these movies, you're not going to get, where like Toby and Andrew are having an exchange with each other and Toby's saying to him like, yeah, me and MJ, like we made it work. And then he looks at Andrew and he's like, you know, just give it time. Like almost like your MJ's coming. Right. Like you lost your Gwen, but your MJ's coming. You know what I mean? And it's just all these little just perfect moments where, I mean, even if you look at Andrew, like arguably he experienced the most loss out of all the Spider-Mans, right? Arguably.
Well, the closest to the heart, because it's always different to lose a family member, but the love of your life, you know, the person you live for, you know, that is different.
That's why it made it just so great. Like his character in this movie, even when he like grabs guys and he's like, wait, he's like, I love you guys.
I know,
like,
right?
It's like Andrew, like he finally has somebody. You know what I mean? Like he's talk about being alone. Like he was alone.
Yeah. And that's, I think they did that really beautifully too. You know, just that I do love the banter between all of them. You know, the web shooters, you know,
that comes out of you. Like, I mean, I have to make mine in a lab and it's a hassle.
Does it only come out of your hands?
Yes.
I mean, just asking, you know, so I love, even it shows his youth on that though too, you know, his immaturity of that.
And I love how you see all those 3 different Peter Parkers, the immature Tom Holland, the kind of super witty Andrew Garfield, and then the just kind of dorky, humble Tobey Maguire, where it's like I was a part of the Avengers. And Tobey Maguire's like, that's great. What is that?
Exactly. Is that a band?
Like, that's totally Tobey Maguire. Right. You know what I mean?
He's encouraging, but yes. Yeah. Well, okay. So real quick here, let's look at a couple of the different foreshadowings that they got in this movie. They foreshadowed Electro foreshadowed a little bit of a Miles Morales kind of ordeal. There's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere out there. Yeah. Well, there is.
Yes.
And that was my second little piece that I didn't like about this movie.
That he didn't show up.
I was just going, they gotta put him in at the end. But you know what?
That in my mind, that was their way of putting him in there. That one comment?
True, and that's the foreshadow because it will happen.
Yes,
but I think because of Into the Spider-Verse happening, that they have that franchise going on right now.
Yeah,
they don't want to take it away from the cartoon and bring it into that yet.
Yeah,
that was my take from it. But they are still hinting that, oh yeah, it's a possibility. It's around.
Yep.
Then another foreshadow that I was kind of going, how in all the other Spider-Men, the best friend always turns and goes evil.
Yeah.
And
that is true.
Now we have
Ned. Was that foreshadow.
Ned had said, I will never turn on you. I will never, be a bad or villain, we will never go against you or whatever, however he put it. But then now he doesn't know who Peter Parker is. He doesn't have that friendship.
Yep.
And now he's at MIT, and they said he's an engineer at MIT. I guarantee you there's going to be that underlining, okay, now he's going to create something, and there's going to be a flip there, and he's going to be a villain, even though he said he wasn't going to.
Yep.
Well, now that he doesn't know who he is.
He doesn't know who he is. Yeah. Just that exchange between Ned and Toby, too, when he's like, did you ever have a best friend? He goes, yeah, but he betrayed me and tried to kill me.
Yeah,
it was just like,
he died in my arms.
He died in my arms. Yeah, that's right.
After he betrayed and tried to kill me. Just kind of like,
okay. But that is true. That's a great foreshadow, though, where it's like, he doesn't know who Peter is anymore.
Right.
So that could be. Okay, we're.
I know we're going.
Yeah,
long.
we're going a little long here, but. Before we wrap it up, we talked a little bit about villains, but I can't get out of this video without talking about William Dafoe.
Oh, beautiful job
as the Green Goblin. And I wanted to ask you where you think like his performance in this movie ranks amongst like superhero villains on the big screen.
Ooh,
is it on the same level as Heath Ledger's Joker?
Ooh, and that's tough. That's tough because Heath Ledger's Joker. He got so deep into that he ended up committing suicide because of that.
Yeah.
I will say his performance was incredible. Perfect because he literally, even from the first movies that he did with that character. He played the two characters
the way he can flip
perfectly. Yes, the flip flap, and that's where it's like, in No Way Home here, you see him and you go, okay, you got this bad villain. We've dealt with him before. Okay, great. And then you go and you see how he's just kind of broken down and wants, he's trapped with this other creature, this other bad guy inside of him, and he wants to fix that. And then you start feeling for him, and you got to have that heartbreak that you just really want him to be good. But then towards the end, where he puts on that perfect just Green Goblin. He doesn't need a mask because he just wears
they changed the wardrobe, which is great. He's got the hood up, and
and to that aspect, then you went back to hating him again, and it's just like, so in that, yes, I think it was right up there in that spectrum. I give him props and respect because he said, I'm not only going to do this if I do my own stunts.
Yeah.
So he did all of his own stunts throughout this movie.
He said he didn't want to just be a cameo. He's like, I don't want to just... And they definitely did not just make him a cameo. No. Like, he is the driving villain force in this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Doc Ock, the way they were portraying that.
No, they made him a good guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do love the what do they call that?
The nanotech.
Nanotech, thank you. I kept on going micro. It's not micro machines. What the hell is it?
How it was almost like just Peter's just like, new device pairing. Like, right? Like I'm going to take over your Doc Ock arms now.
That was beautiful, but that also, brings you back to the whole, okay, he has Stark technology. This isn't, the way Spider-Man was. But
yes. Yeah.
So it was great all around there. So
I think that Green Goblin was just, it was, although not necessarily who Spider-Man is, it was nice to see kind of a moment of just vengeful rage out of Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Because that's something we haven't really seen before. You know what I mean? Where it's like I just punched you away from me, but now I'm going to grab you with my web so I can pull you back and just keep beating the absolute crap out of you.
Yeah.
When he squared up with the Goblin, like that was just cool.
And that was beautiful too, because we all have those moments.
Yes.
Throughout our lives. And especially if we were to go through something like that, how do you not want to kill this person?
Yeah.
This person just, is rubbing it in your face that because you were, with Aunt May, she died because of you, and just like totally rubbing your face in her blood kind of thing.
Yeah.
And how do you not want to kill this person? But you know what?
Yeah.
That's where, it's so beautiful that Tobey Maguire, because he knows what happens to you, as a person.
Yeah.
How that changes you. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't, make anything better by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You think that it will, but it never does. And he, even goes in and explains that in the movie, so I thought that was beautiful that, it showed that, we all have this rage, but Spider-Man being the hero that he is, he steps up to just, I'm going to stop this from happening. Because this is not who we are. Yeah. And that's actually where Jeff and we go back and forth because, Spider-Man, he's such an awesome character. Why isn't he worthy of picking up Thor's hammer? Yeah. Well, technically, yes and no. The only reason why he's not worthy enough is because he doesn't have the capacity to kill.
Yes.
So that's where, if you're going to deal with bad, villains of the universe, you need to be able to take out and smite out the enemy.
Yes.
But Spider-Man can't do that. And I love that. I love that about him. There's always got to be that other way. I don't know. I could gush for hours about this guy. I could too.
There's tons to unfold about this movie. That's just our little bit.
There should be like a part 4.
I'm sure there's like, we didn't even talk about the fact that Matt Murdock and Daredevil is in this movie.
Oh, I know.
But we'll cut it here. But again, thanks for watching, and I hope as you've watched this, you have already seen the movie. Please. Oh yeah. If you haven't, I'm so sorry. But we warned you. Yeah, we warned you. We explained most of it, but it'll be exciting to see what happens with Spider-Man here.
Oh yeah.
Moving forward in the MCU with the multiverse open now, we're going to see not even just Spider-Man, but all the MCU movies. I think we're in for a wild ride here now that we've cracked into the multiverse, but we will see you guys next time. Yeah. Thanks again for watching. That's about it. We're out. Deuces.
Good. Take care, guys. Spider-Man. My kids, when they were younger, they weren't saying Spider-Man. It was always Spider-Man. But then we would, because I would always sing it like Homer Simpson would. Yeah. Does whatever a Spider-Man does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a big, So
have you ever seen the one where it's like the Family Guy one that's like Spider-Man, just totally wrong.
Let's just, poke at Batman some more there. That works.